A very warm welcome to all uh, viewers of Gnanamitra YouTube channel. Friends, my name is Dr. Subramania. So today the topic of discussion will be on programming of subconscious mind of children. So today we'll be speaking about it is a part of spiritual parenting or conscious parenting. So how exactly, knowingly or unknowingly, we are influencing the programming of our children. So parents, grandparents, schools, teachers, friends, all these people have a major impact on the programming of the subconscious mind of the children. So friends, before I get into the topic, we should understand everything in our life starts with the belief system. Whether we are aware or not, our life has been played continuously by the belief system. That is the programming of our subconscious mind. Belief system is nothing but the programming of your subconscious mind through the analysis which happens in the conscious mind. So what we need to understand is, in life, anything we experience is completely influenced by our subconscious mind. Before I get into the depth of conscious parenting or programming of subconscious mind of the children, let us understand the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. So everything is same. For learning purpose, we differentiate all these things. So conscious mind is something which has the ability to analyze, judge, think over, rational, differentiation. All these things are the capability of the conscious mind. Okay. So when it comes to animals, say primitive animals like wild animals, all these animals are already programmed and then sent to the planet Earth. That is how the creation or the creative law for the animals. The only subconscious programming which has already been done to the animals are survival instinct. Survival instinct is the only programming done in the animals. They don't have something called conscious mind where they can think about the logics, analysis, differentiation, judgment, right, wrong, all these things they don't know, because they run their lives only with something called survival instinct. That is why you see in the food chain or the animal chains, uh, when a carnivorous animals follows herbivorous animals, they run. It is automatic. It just happens. The programming has been already done. That is, to live a life on this planet, I need to survive. This is what is called survival instinct. This survival instinct is already programmed in the animals. So here they can't change the programming. Once the memory is stored with certain amount of information, it cannot be changed for the animals because they don't have a conscious mind. Then their brain development is only limited to the survival instinct. Whatever is necessary for the survival instinct, that amount of programming is only stored in the animals, right? Now what I'm trying to tell is, mind is something in the energy form which is unseen, will communicate the information to the body to manifest it in its physical life or in the reality using something called brain. Brain is the communicator between the mind and body. So energy in the unseen form is transferred, or informational energy is transferred to the body at cellular level to manifest its reality through something called brain. So brain acts as a translator or the mediator between the mind and the body. So mind is in the energy form, body is in the particle form. So days are gone where matter affects matter, what the Newton science says. Those days are gone, my dear friends. The research has gone beyond that, where we call something quantum physics. Quantum physics says seen or unseen, everything is in the form of energy. In Newton science, when we break the matter into molecules or atoms, we have something called atomic system, where we have something called nucleus, and around that a proton, neutron, electron, energy shells. These are all the things we have already read in our high school. But quantum science says, quantum physics says, when you dig into the depth of the matter, you end up with something called energy. The energy is in the unseen form. All these days, we used to think that is a space. There is nothing called space now. Everything is energy, whether seen or unseen. Unseen area, we consider it as space. No, it is energy, but it is not perceived by our eyes through all the technologies what we have been using. So what I am trying to tell is, through the subconscious mind programming, we are creating our reality, my dear friends. Through the belief systems, we are creating our reality. Okay? So these things, please keep it in mind. Everything is in energy form. So mind is also a part of the body. So, but mind is in the energy form, or thoughts are in the energy form, but our body is in the particle form or the matter form. Both exist, both transforms. Energy can become matter, matter can become energy, or energy can become particle, particle can become energy. This is the essence of quantum physics. Once we understand the quantum physics, we can understand human body system, not only as physical body, we are 7-bodied system with all the 6 subtle bodies. So mind is everywhere. We already know this. We have discussed in the previous session. So now, how does this conscious and subconscious mind creates the reality in our life? So let's discuss on this. So conscious mind is more of a decision making, analysis, logical thinking. Suppose some theory I say it to you, it is not yet in your subconscious mind, it has not yet become your belief system. Okay, now I tell you something regarding something. Say we'll take an example of right now the pandemic disease, coronavirus. Okay, so before March, did you ever heard of coronavirus? Did you ever knew anything about it? So you were not even aware of it. Now, as soon as say in the mid-March, something really hit on the planet Earth is corona pandemic. So now what happened after listening to all the medias, news channels, and WhatsApp and Facebook social medias, and lots of things, after coming across all the informations, so now our conscious mind in the month of March became aware of something called coronavirus. Now about coronavirus, so many information was given. It is a deadly virus. Human beings are dying. They die of suffocation, lack of breathing, oxygen level is reduced. That is what has been done by the coronavirus. Finally, people die. All these things we have been constantly seeing, constantly listening to. After listening to so many medias and medical professionals has been telling about it. So now what happened? You created a belief system saying coronavirus is a deadly virus which is gonna kill us. Okay, after so much of practice, after so much of convincing yourself with the information provided in the external source, though not in your experience, keep in mind, after listening to all those things, personally you don't know anything about coronavirus, but still you had the analysis, thinking, judgmental. You are rational about it. You are able to judge it whether right, wrong with all the logics, all the knowledge you had before. With all those things, using your conscious mind, you are able to make it as a belief system. You started believing, saying that coronavirus is deadly to me. So once you have believed it, it will sink into your subconscious mind as a memory, which is gonna stay there forever until you really are aware of the programming method of conscious and subconscious mind and the method, all these things. Until you are aware of all these things, this memory in you is forever. It is a permanent thing. So we have heard of all the symptoms, throat pain, fever, cold, all these things we have heard, like, by creating awareness in the medias, now we are aware. Now a person gets a throat pain and he is having mild fever. So now what is the first thing that is going to trigger? Oh my God, I am affected with the coronavirus. Whether he was affected or not, he is attracting the situation through his own thinking. I already told you, we create our own realities. Our mind released a thought saying that, oh my God, I am affected with corona. So you're grabbing all the energies to make it as a reality with the emotion of fear. With the emotion of fear and the belief, what you have started believing will create the reality, ending up with the corona positive. Right? I don't know. We don't know whether corona was there or not, but our belief system started making it reality because there was another strong energy involved in it, was the emotion of fear. Okay. So subconscious mind is just a memory. It's like a hard disk, say 1 TB hard disk stored with 1 TB amount of information, right? So any particular situation is created, say throat pain. I said the throat pain is a situation or external stimulus which was created in your reality, and what you did is immediately your subconscious mind started switching on the wiring related to the coronavirus fear, getting the result of positive, being a corona positive patient. So whatever information gets sunk into the subconscious mind, it creates a kind of wiring in the brain. We call this as synapses or synaptic connection. So when the mind fires, the brain wires. Whenever you shoot a constant pattern of thoughts, the same wirings will start getting thickened. That wiring will become thicker and thicker. The more thicker, the more firm will be the wiring, and the more manifestation is possible in your reality. See, subconscious mind is the hunter of the brain, my dear friends. So conscious mind is just the analysis and understanding all these things happen in the conscious mind. Once it sunks into the subconscious mind, becomes your belief system, then it will start the wiring in your brain. So once this wire happen, a particular stimulus is there and the response is this particular wiring. To give you an example, generally what happens when we want to switch on a bulb, we have a particular switch. That switch is stimulus and this bulb is response. So the wiring connection is the same. I can't switch on some other switch and expect this bulb to glow or on. This particular switch has to be pressed to on this bulb. The same way, to create a response, we need a particular stimulus. Coronavirus or the throat infection, whatever you have, is the switch. It is the stimulus. The response is in the brain because you have already started believing when I have a throat pain, when I have a mild fever, I am affected with the corona. This is the belief system you have created. So once you get some stimulus for whatever reason, for weather change, or you had some fruit, something like that, the entire reason for the cold or throat pain is different. But since you believed in that particular thing called corona, your reality, your belief system makes things manifest into reality as coronavirus positive patient. See, this is how your subconscious programming works, my dear friends. So once you do this programming, it is very difficult to change. Suppose you have a movie in your hard disk. So you can play only those movies which are stored in your hard disk. If I want to play some other movie, is it possible? Which is already not there. So now what I have to do, I have to program my hard disk with the new movie which I want to watch, and then if I try to play that movie, it will play, right? So whatever memory you are stored with, whatever belief system you are, programmed with, only those things will be your reality. This is something very closely related to the law of attraction. Whatever is in the program in the subconscious mind, those things are going to play in your reality, as simple as that. Suppose you have a CD player, you have a CD jukebox stored with certain amount of songs. Whatever songs are there, it is going to play and you're going to listen to it. You want something new song, if you're going to kick the jukebox, do you think it is going to change the song which you want to listen to? No. For that you have to change the programming. So it is very easy to change the cassette or change the CD or to, the examples what I gave. But for human mind, the subconscious programming is not so easy, my dear friends. It is not so easy. I'll give you an example. Virat Kohli is a world-class batsman. Okay. So we'll take his example of batsman. So after constant everyday practice of cricket batting in the nets, using his conscious mind, consciousness, he is able to face all the balls with the different speeds, from 120, 130 miles to 150, 160 kilometers speed balls he is able to face and confidently play. How that confidence came? Through practice. By practicing constantly at the nets every day for 3 to 4 hours, his conscious mind started, it was able to pick the speed of the ball, line and length of the ball, and he is able to play the perfect shot of the cricket ball. So through practice, using his consciousness, awareness, he practiced and he went to such an extent, the programming got sunk into the subconscious mind. This particular kind of ball comes to me, I play this shot gracefully. Gracefully he will play that shot, and we would say, what a beautiful shot. Virat Kohli is an expert in the cover drive, we say. For that subconsciously playing such a perfect shot, so the amount of practice he has done matters. The amount of belief within himself to play the shot matters. So that is how he has programmed. Now say another example, the ball was coming straight and Virat Kohli started flicking offside. That is the kind of shot he started playing, and he is getting out with the leg before. So 2-3 times he played similar shot when the ball came straight and full, and he tried to play the flick shot, and he is getting out with the leg before since the ball is coming straight. Now the god of cricket, Sachin Tendulkar, says, "Hey Virat, I'll give you a suggestion, man. Stop playing that flick shot. It is getting you out. Change your footwork and start hitting it straight with using straight drive. I think you're gonna do a better job." Now what Virat Kohli has to do is unconsciously or subconsciously, automatically he tend to play the flick shot. Now he has to change the programming of playing the flick shot to the straight drive. He has to change the shot for the same ball. Now he will start practicing playing straight. He will practice to such an extent where he will start believing whenever the ball comes straight, I'm going to play the straight drive. Now what here happened is, using his conscious mind, using his logic, after understanding that he is playing the wrong shot, now he changed the programming with the practice to such an extent, he started believing that I'm going to play this um, shot straight, gracefully, without even thinking. So now the programming changed. Okay. So this particular example I gave you is very easy one. Couple of days practice is going to change the way Virat Kohli plays. But in real life, we have so many situations, so many belief systems, so many things. Okay, particular belief system we have created within ourselves, it's not so easy to change, my dear friends. So in the initial stages only, the programming what we do to our children is very important. Once we program the mind of our children, particular programs, it is very difficult to change. But we are lucky we have a conscious mind to change the programming. The part of the brain which is responsible for the conscious mind functioning is called prefrontal cortex. Prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain which lacks in the animals, resulting in the absence of conscious mind. We are lucky to have it, but it depends on us how we use it. Prefrontal cortex or conscious mind is a blessing for humans, but it is left to us how we are going to use it. Your belief system might be wrong, or your belief system might be right. Your belief system might come out of experience, or your belief system might come out of listening to others. As I told you, Corona. So many things in our lives, we just listen to others, leaders. They might be right or they might be wrong. If they're wrong, our belief system is wrong. Our functioning to that particular belief system is wrong. It is against the nature. It is against the law of creation. Be careful what you're listening to. And the another thing is, since we are talking about parenting today, every parent wants born Buddhas. Every parent wants their children to be Buddhas. Nothing wrong. In fact, children are born Buddhas. But the thing is, are we allowing them to lead the life of a Buddhahood to them? Since we think they're children, they're very small, they don't understand, what do? We force our belief system, we force our stupidities onto them, we force our boundaries into them. Like, this is the time you have to eat, this is the time you have to play, this is the time you have to sleep. We are programming them to utter stupidity. Where it is written you have to eat at this time, you have to eat, sleep at this time. Eat when you are hungry, sleep when you feel sleepy, isn't it? So these kind of mini belief system we are going to store into them. So the first thing is, are we leading a conscious life to be conscious parents? First we should be conscious of our living, then only we will be able to consciously program our children. For this consciousness, we should be aware of our life, aware of ourselves. For that we need meditation. Everything gets connected to meditation. Meditation is the only solution to become a Buddha. This is the statement given by so many people, so many masters, eons ago. From the years they have been telling the same thing. So for me, the world's best father, the father of this creation I have ever seen, I have ever come across, is Janaka Maharaja. Janaka Maharaja is a perfect father. When I went through the book called Untold Story of Sita, after reading that book, the one character really I got connected to was Janaka Maharaja. Sita Devi was a born Buddha, but being a parent, Janaka Maharaja played a major role in retaining the Buddhahood in Sita. Because Janaka Maharaja himself was a very great yogi. He was a philosopher. He was a meditator. People only know him as a king, but what people don't know is he was a great meditator, philosopher, yogi. He used to constantly, he used to spend half of his lifetime with the rishis, performing all the rituals and doing meditation for nights and days to understand himself that he is a Buddha. Because he realized that he is a Buddha, because he was leading a life of Buddha or a Jesus Christ, he allowed his daughter Sita Devi to retain her Buddhahood or Christhood. He used to take her at the very young age. What we do, we are overprotective parents. What we do, we never let our child go out, explore. He used to take her at very young age to the forest. She had the very connectivity with the forest, with the plants, with the trees, with the animals, all the creatures living in the forest. In fact, the animals used to wait for her to visit her in the forest. Such was the divinity, such was the connection, such was the connection she had with the nature. All the trees, rivers, she used to communicate with them. She knew everything was energy. She saw herself in everything. That is the Buddhahood she retained with the grace of her father, Janaka Maharaja. This is called parenting. This is called spiritual parenting, or this is called conscious parenting, my dear friends. I would definitely recommend you to read that book. So now, after understanding the conscious and subconscious mind, now when does exactly our parenting start? So people might think our parenting starts when children are born, when the baby is born, or few people might think during the pregnancy. No, your parenting starts during the conception. Your parenting starts even before conception. That is when you are having the physical intimacy with your partner, especially when you are planning for a baby. The state of mind, the emotional state is very important during your physical intimacy. What are your emotions, especially emotions? I am stressing on that. Especially your emotions during physical intimacy is very, very important, my dear friend. The physical intimacy shouldn't be forceful. It shouldn't lack any love. You know, the emotion when during the physical intimacy should be filled with love, with the complete grace of welcoming the baby. My dear baby, we are waiting for you. This particular act of intimacy is for you. This is the kind of emotion out of complete love. There should be love energy between both the parents. Physical intimacy happens anyways, my dear friends, but the emotion of love you share has a major impact on the baby. Whenever your physical intimacy is out of love, when you are vibrant in your physical intimacy, you are welcoming a higher soul into your life. When your energy levels are low, according to that energy, the soul is going to come. So your emotions are very important. In fact, your emotions during physical intimacy has a major impact on the emotion well-being of the baby, even during physical intimacy. I told you everything is energy. So out of this pure energy, the lady, the mother in her womb is going to manifest that energy into, what do you say, baby. Okay, the sperm and the ovum which fuses is a physical act, but it needs energy for the process to happen, for the mitosis and meiosis to happen, to form a beautiful fetus. You need energies. Those energies are prana, pranic energies, pure energies. Creating a baby in the womb is not a normal act, my dear friends. Because it just happens, don't, take it to the grantedness that, oh, anyways it's gonna happen. No, the energies you carry has a major impact on the kind of soul, and the quality of the body parts formation is dependent on the energies, that is your thoughts and emotions during physical intimacy. Here your parenting starts, my dear friends. And another thing is, during pregnancy, sometimes you come across certain situations where you are not ready for the, to become a pregnant. Whether it is a father or mother, you are not ready to become pregnant. Say accidental pregnancy, but you decide to raise the child. But when you have accidental pregnancy, I advise both the mother and father to accept the situation first. Though it happened accidentally, welcome it, embrace it, accept it with complete love. So that baby, the soul which is gonna come into the body of the fetus, will be very happy. Wouldn't you like say you're coming to my home as a guest, wouldn't you expect me to welcome you with grace and love, with the smiling face? Wouldn't you make you feel warm and lovable when I welcome you to my home with a huge smile? Doesn't it make the event more colorful and joyful for you? Say you come to my house, I make my faces and, oh my God, why this idiot came? How do you feel? What is the emotional stirring which happens in you? Would you like to come to my house? No. Such will be the kind of welcome we have to do to the baby. It's okay if it happens accidentally, embrace it, welcome it, my dear friends. So here I have a research saying that the state of mind and emotion of parents has major impact on the genetic expression on the child. This is the research done by Surani in 2001, which determines the mental and body state. Your emotional state, your thoughts has a major impact on the body parts, formation of body parts as well. I will quote it later, one more research. So welcome the child, my dear friends. Once you welcome the baby, the soul will start entering the body. Generally at the month of 4th or 5th month, generally the soul will start coming and visiting. It will come to the body. So a soul entering a body is not a small process, like putting something in a box and locking it. No, it is a huge process. It has to adapt its energies. The light of a sun has to be compacted into a box. Okay, such is the power of the light of the sun. and you have to adjust and compact it into a box, because the energy of sun is gonna burn the box. So it has to reduce its energies and adapt to the environment in the womb. It's a lots of process. So at the month of fourth or fifth, your soul starts coming into the womb, and it will start listening. It will study the environment. The soul will start study the environment, whether it is the house environment of the house, about the family members, about the mom, dad, emotional state and mental state of the entire family, especially mom and dad. What are they speaking, what are their lifestyle, what are their emotions? Everything will be studied. There are people who might claim, what nonsense is this? Brain is yet in the developmental stage. We need this part of the brain, that part of the brain to listen and retain the memory. Hippocampus is not yet developed. All these things people are gonna talk because they're not aware of the actual science. So what if brain is not yet developed? Mind is still there. Soul is nothing but mind. Okay, mind is active, right? Your conscious and subconscious mind is active. So baby is listening to you. So we already have an example in mythology, the example of Abhimanyu, right? What did Abhimanyu do when he was in mother's womb? Krishna was narrating about the breaking of Chakravyuha in Kurukshetra war, and Abhimanyu was listening to it, and he told how to enter. And before he started telling about the exit of Chakravyuha, Krishna Paramatma realized that, oh ho, Abhimanyu is listening to it, I think I should stop it. And he stopped. And Abhimanyu was listening, my dear friends. He was in the womb. So mythological stories are not just stories, they are the message to the humanity. Sri Krishna Paramatma was trying to create the awareness in the humanity about the conscious parenting. He was trying to tell, your baby is listening to you, my dear friends. Speak with awareness, think with awareness, feel the emotions with awareness, right? Eating food with awareness, speaking with awareness. Everything has to be done with awareness when you are in the womb, especially family members. So dad or the father is responsible for the happiness of the mother. He should take care of the mother. He should fulfill all the things what she craves during pregnancy. You should keep her happily. She should be happy during pregnancy. When you are happy, when mother is happy, baby is happy. So I will give you an example. Why do we see certain situations where at the 7th or 8th month a baby turns the umbilical cord around the baby's head? Why does it happen? Does it happen accidentally? No, nobody is aware of the reason. So generally, when mother is not happy, whatever the reason might be, due to the father or the family issues, personal issues, or she might not be enjoying the parenting or the changes happening in the parenting, she's always frustrated, anxiety and rejection towards baby, not ready for the pregnancy, or undergoing pregnancy forcefully. There should be n number of reasons. Factors might be external or internal which is making her unhappy. The baby is not happy, especially when the baby is rejected. When mother is not happy, when she is not giving love to the baby thinks, oh my god, I am creating such a pain to my mom. She doesn't like me, so she don't want me to come out and lead a life with her. She's not happy with me. My dad is not happy with me. My family is not happy with me. There is only pain in this family. My mother is in full pain. I'm just gonna end my life. I'll just commit suicide in the uterus, in the womb. And baby will turn the umbilical cord around its neck and tries to commit suicide. Nobody is aware of this. Nobody knows about this. When we go for the scanning, doctor will say, oh my God, the umbilical cord is around the neck of the baby. I think we should deliver it earlier or to C-section. When you dig into the reason for it, when anybody who has undergone this experience, you yourself analyze your pregnancy time. What was your state of mind? How are you feeling? What was the environment at your home? What was happening around you? So these things are very important. Nobody knows. No gynecologist will tell you about this. They only say eat healthy food, do activities. Right, these things are right. But at the same time, your emotional stability, mental stability is also very important. That is why we say when mom is happy, baby is happy. So spend more time in meditation. You have started programming the subconscious mind of baby in the very time of physical intimacy, as I told you. So when the baby is in the womb, also you're programming the emotion of fear, you're programming the emotion of happiness, you're programming the emotion of what do you say, anxiety, creativity, art, meditation, joy, everything you're programming. It is left to you what do you want to program, but you're the one who's programming. When mother spends more time in listening to music or practicing music or musical instruments, performing the creative activity like say art, right? Sketch, painting, wall painting, graffiti, whatever you are interested in, dancing, reading books, spending more time in meditation. All these things lead to the programming in the subconscious mind of the baby. You have all seen this, or you might have experienced. If you practice classical music, any music or musical instrument, your baby will also do the same. At the age of 3 4 they'll start singing, they'll start touching those, they're interested in those musical instruments, they're aware of it. They were listening to you in the womb. Your baby become a world class singer at the age of 5 or 6 when you start practicing singing in your pregnancy. These are all things we have already seen in the society. This is not something new. It is just that we are not aware in our pregnancy. That's all. So we are doing the programming. The another, my own example I would like to give you regarding the pregnancy, like listening during the pregnancy. I used to constantly communicate with my son. I used to touch the womb of my wife, and I always used to touch, kiss. We all do that. And I used to speak to my son. Once in the night, like, I am a habitual singer, and I used to sing songs for my son. And every time I used to sing a song, he used to do the movements and he used to kick. He used to do all those things when during fifth or sixth month pregnancy. So once what I did was I wanted to do an experiment. Before we slept, I kept my ears and mouth towards the womb, and I told baby, we'll do one thing. Tonight we will meet astrally. I'm gonna sleep now. It is night, and in the dream I'm gonna meet you astrally. Okay, we'll do that. And I slept. In the night, in my dream, I met my son. I was talking to someone with the other souls or astral beings, and my son came. He came in the form of a youth boy. It was like say 12 to 13-year-old boy. He was in that form. He came and asked me, "Are you my dad?" I told, "Yeah, I'm your dad." He told, "Dad, I love your song. I love your singing. I'm a fan of yours. I'm a fan of your singing." That's what he told me. And morning I got up and I was really, surprised. Like, yes, it worked. I met my son. And every time after that, every time I used to meet my son, he used to come in the boy form. Now I'm telling it's a son because I have one. But even before delivery, He was always appearing in the form of a boy. So I knew we are gonna have a boy. Though I didn't tell anyone, but I knew baby would be a boy. So it is a confirmation that baby is listening to you. My son listened to me. He loved my song. That's why he used to do lots of movements when I used to sing for him. See, your baby is listening, my dear friends, and he likes songs. Even now, whenever I sing, he listens to it happily. Whenever I play flute, he is very happy listening to it. He asked me now, Dad, even I want to learn flute. This is a big flute, buy one, small one for me. See, the programming happened in the pregnancy itself. Abhimanyu listened to his uncle in the pregnancy itself. So your baby is listening to you, my dear friends. Speak with awareness. Don't do unwanted talks and don't do unwanted fights. Mother should always be happy. Mother should spend most of her time in the activities which she is interested in. I would suggest spend more time in meditation, because if you are vibrant, if you are filled with pranic energies, your baby is also filled with pranic energy. When your mind is calm, when you are emotionally stable, your baby is also calm and emotionally stable. So we are the genetic engineers, my dear friends. Parents are genetic engineers at the very time of physical intimacy. Suppose we are programming a software. A company comes and says, we have a mobile company, we want an app to be formed. So one software company, they give an assignment, you design an app for us. So you design an app to the utmost best service you want to provide it to your client. Suppose your software is not functioning properly, you have some flaws in your software, and you give that software to the client, and he installs those what do you say, software in his mobile or something. Is it gonna function properly? No. The same way, you are the genetic engineers at various levels, whether it is at energy level or physical level, whether it is mind or body, it doesn't make difference. Quantum physics, everything is safe. So it will have, though your emotions or thoughts, it will have an impact on the formation of the baby parts. I'll give you an quotation, like I would like to quote two researchers. Quality of life in the womb programs our health condition in the adult age. So any programming happens during the pregnancy and in the womb will create the potential in the future or in the adult age. A person, due to the stressed life in the mom might be too much anxious in her pregnancy time, will create the potential of blood pressure or cardiovascular disease or heart disease to the baby in the adulthood. It will develop the potential of getting cardiovascular disease or blood pressure in the adult age. So at the very pregnancy stage, you are affecting the health of the child. This is given in the book called Life in the Womb, The Origin of Health and Disease by Dr. Peter. This is the statement he has given. And one more thing, effect of stress hormone on baby. What is the stress hormone in our body? Adrenaline. What is adrenaline going to do? I'm not going to go deep into it. Generally, when adrenaline is released in the stressed out situation or in the emergency situation, when adrenaline is released, the blood supply in the visceral organs are the important organs, maybe your cardiovascular system, heart, lungs, or digestive system, or your excretory or kidney system, or the central nervous system, whatever might be the major parts in the body. These are called visceral organs. The blood supply in the visceral organs, from the visceral organs, blood supply is diverted to the extremities, your hands and legs. Any emergency situation, you fight, you fright, and you flight. If you are able to fight, you will fight, or you get frightened and you flight, or you run. To fight or flight, you need energy in your legs and arms. So blood supply will be diverted to the extremities, hands and legs. Such is the function of the stress hormone. So now what happens when mother is constantly stressed out due to various reasons, mental issues or emotional issues, or due to the bad situations in the family or at home, what is going to happen? Constant release of the stress hormone, that is adrenaline, in the mother passes to the fetus through placenta. We all know that whatever we take inside, whatever is in the mother's body is going to go through placenta to the fetus. Now what happens due to the constant release of stress hormone in the mother? It is leading the adrenaline hormone to the fetus, resulting in, see, it affects the visceral organs, because I already told you what does the stress hormone does. It will divert the blood from the visceral organs to the extremities. Same thing happens in the baby as well. Since it is the developmental stage for various visceral organs in the baby, so lack of blood supply leads to improper formation of the body parts, affects the visceral organs, especially hampers the development of nephron cells in the kidney. Kidney cells are nothing but nephron cells, means kidney cells. In turn, develops the potential for BP. Remember, in turn, develops the potential for blood pressure in future in the adult age. This is the research done by Dodick et al. In 2002. See, mother's condition is having major effect on the formation of body parts. And next thing is, since there is less blood supply to the brain as well, since even the brain is in the developmental stage, it reduces the IQ of the baby due to the altered blood flow to the brain. See, so much developmental issues we go through. We are the programmers, we are programming. So these are the certain things we need to follow during pregnancy, my dear friends. Now, post pregnancy. So another thing I want to mention, this one more thing I want to tell you: mental, emotional, physical actions has major impact on the personality and emotional temperament of the baby. Suppose I'll give you an example. Mother during pregnancy, she is very anger. She's undergoing lots of anger. She's angry and she's more frustrated in her pregnancy time. The impact on the child is stubbornness, very rigid. They just don't listen to you. You'll be born with a stubborn child. This is the effect of mom's emotion on the babies, right? So then we complain when the baby is born. My son is very rigid, my daughter is very stubborn, I don't know what to do with her. See, my neighbor's daughter, she is very good, she is very smart, she listens to her mom. We complain about our baby, but who is responsible for the stubbornness developed in the baby? The very mother of hers or his responsible for that. See the genetic engineering here. Post pregnancy, the first thing we need to understand post pregnancy or after delivering the baby, babies are very sharp. They are just like sponge. Whatever you teach them, they learn, my dear friends. They are like just like sponge. They are looking forward to learn new things. You can observe your child, they are very good at exploration. They are ready to receive everything. So a lady called Dr. Rima Lebo, so in her experiment quantitative EEG and neurofeedback, in her project in the 1999, she did a publication by measuring the brain activity. Brain activity is nothing but the thought patterns happening in your mind through EEG, that is electroencephalogram. Okay, so now after this research, she has given a conclusion that at the age of 0 to 2, the baby's brain activity is in the state of delta, that is 0.4 to 4 cycles per second, or hertz frequency activity. That is very low. In spirituality, we call it as samadhi sthiti. The brain activity is very low. Between 2 to 6 years of age, the EEG measurement is between 4 to 8 hertz. That is theta state of mind. Theta state is slightly higher brain activity, but these two, like delta or theta is the meditative state and samadhi sthiti state. This is the lowest brain activity where, remember, where we can do the subconscious programming. For this, I would like to give an example. During hypnosis therapy, hypnotic therapy or past life regression, what we do is we'll take the patient to the state of delta or theta so that we'll be able to do the reprogramming or create a new programming in the subconscious mind. So your child is in the moldable state. 0 to 6 years of age is the moldable state. It is the time for programming your subconscious mind of your child. So now you decide what you want to program in the subconscious mind. The right program or the wrong program. The useful program or useless program. Another example I would like to give, the receiving ability of the child. We are very comfortable with the mother tongue. The most fluent language we speak is our mother tongue. Why? At the very young age, say one and a half baby when the baby starts speaking, it will start speaking the mother tongue, the language what they speak at home. Aren't we expert in our mother tongue? Aren't we very comfortable with the mother tongue? Because at the very programming time of the child, the mother tongue was spoken. So we are very comfortable with the mother tongue. See, so at till the age of, we might think at very young child they don't learn anything. We don't have to put burden on them. No, keep them open to all the books. Keep them open to all the musical instruments, all the activities, painting, art, music, dance. Give them each and every option. Let them program themselves. You don't program. Let them program. Let them program what they want to program and what they have come to program. The only thing the child needs is freedom. Freedom to explore. If we allow them to explore and experiment, they won't experience anything. We should allow the child to explore and experiment so that they will learn through their experience. We overprotective parents, what we do when they climb something, when they climb a gate or grill, we say, "Oh, don't do it, you're gonna fall." So you're not allowing them to explore. Being a parent, what is your role? To support them. You should hold them and ask them to step, put the step one by one carefully. This is how you do the programming. Now, without falling down, they learn to climb the gate or grill. So now they experienced. You should support them. Don't force your fears into them. When they go to play outside into the garden, oh no, don't go, there are insects. So what? Allow them to communicate with the plants, with the insects. You be with them. If any insect comes to them, you then, if you want to whoosh them, if you feel any threat, then whoosh them. Why are you not giving a chance to explore? This is what we do all the time. We don't allow them to explore. So my dear parents, at the very young age, please allow your children to explore and experiment so that they experience and learn everything about it. You show them flute, you show them keyboard, you show them guitar, drum, everything. Expose them to all musical instruments. Let them choose. Expose them to all the sports, all the games. Everything you expose them to. Let them pick what they want to. This is the kind of programming we need to do in our children. And they are watchful. They watch, they observe every activity. They are very good mimicry artists at the young age. They do whatever you do. Once, I don't know, like casually I threw my mobile, next day my son threw the mobile. Later, now I am very careful with my actions because I learned whatever I do, my son does that. I am a voracious reader of spiritual books. Every day I spend 2 hours of reading books, and my son is aware of it, and he is also voracious reader of books. I'm not exaggerating. My son has a small library with a collection of 50, 60 books. So now out of that 18 to 20 books, he is 2 years, 3 months old. Out of those, he knows every content in the 15 to 20 books. He knows all the contents in it. You show him, he will tell you what is it. I didn't force him books, or I didn't force him the books that he liked. I realized that he likes reading books, and he calls his mom or dad or his grandparents, and then he will ask them to teach him. Come, teach me the book. We never force books on him. He chose to read the books, and we have just provided it. I'm supporting him to explore all the books. He loves animals, he loves plants, he loves water kingdom, he knows all the species of dinosaurs because he is read it on the book. So that is the kind of subconscious programming we do. And I play flute in front of him. I'm exposing him to the flute. I play keyboard in front of him. I'm exposing him to the keyboard. He knows that dad knows to play musical instruments. Dad sings. And I do meditation every day. He knows I do meditation. He will come and sit on my lap when I'm meditating. He'll sit for 2 to 3 minutes and he'll go back to the sleep. If I don't sit for meditation, he will tell me, Dad, it is time. You are supposed to sit into meditation. You sit into meditation. I won't disturb you. See? Because I said, we are, like all the spiritual parents, they want their children to meditate at the very young age, but they themselves don't meditate. You can't force meditation onto them until you follow, because they are your followers. They are the mimicry artists. They does all the mimicry, whatever you do, right? Such is the programming we need to do. I like to give an example. This is my experience, what I told you, but I will give you one more example. See, at the home, nobody is born vegetarian or non-vegetarian. If parents eat non-vegetarian food, even children will start eating non-vegetarian food. They will lose values for animal kingdom. Obviously they are eating them. They don't have compassion or values for the animal kingdom. They just don't respect the animal kingdom. And in this conditioning, they like only pet animals, and other animals are not animals. This is the exceptional conditioning we do, because we have a dog at home, we love it, but we don't eat it. But we eat a goat or a sheep or a chicken or a beef. So this is the conditioning we have done. Now the child is born non-vegetarian. After 17, 18 years of age, now people are turning into vegetarianism, or in fact, some people are becoming vegan. How? Because conscious mind is speaking all the ill treatment, violence happening against animal kingdom. Now, because they have some compassion left, some love left in their heart, that will turn them their subconscious programming, that will change the belief system, and the subconscious programming is changed to become a vegetarian. See how programming happens. If you are a born vegetarian, if you educate your children about animal violence, and you ask them to, you should love the animal kingdom, we should respect the animal kingdom, they are part of this creation, they are part of this society, they are as equal as us, they are as important as us in the society or in the planet. Don't you think they won't listen to you? They will listen to you. If you are a Rakshasa in your life, your children will be Rakshasas. If you are a God in your life, your children will become God in your life. One more example I would like to give you. You go to a restaurant. Why do we go to restaurant? To have a fine dining experience. Mom gets a break to prepare a meal. Dad got a break from his job. They need to have a family time. Kids have a break from the school. Beautiful Sunday. You go for a Sunday lunch. You go to a good restaurant with great ambience and you order variety of dishes. So why do you go to have a beautiful family time and to have a family dining experience? Speak to each other, spend time together, enjoy the food and come back. Now say this father, one of the family member, is an angry man. He's angry young man. His nature is always is an anxious person. He just want to finish things like how he does with his job. With the same mentality, he will enter the restaurant. Since it is a Sunday, it is a crowded restaurant. So order doesn't come on time. He waits and waits. Now he is anxious. Later, anxious turns into anger. Now, what he does in front of all the people in the restaurant, he'll create a drama. He'll call the waiter, fight with him, fight with the owner, create a drama, and all the purpose of visiting the restaurant is shattered. Now, what are you? The moral you're creating in your child. Your children are watching you. What do they think? Oh, my dad fights. He is a hero. Whenever next time when I come to the restaurant, if a waiter doesn't give a food on time, I'm gonna fight with him because he's giving the food late. See the programming. What was the purpose of visiting the restaurant, and what happened to you? What is the kind of programming you did to your child? So whatever you do, they do, my dear friends. So these are the things we need to learn ourselves and then teach them. If we teach theoretically to them, they won't learn it. Practically what we do, they do it. So we should ourselves create as a practical example for our children. Then only they'll follow us. Otherwise, no, they don't follow your words, they follow your actions. So before ending my session, I would like to give a few parental tips. So one thing I would like to tell is, my dear parents, please make yourself available to your children. There is nothing bigger than your availability to your children, especially mother. So a working woman, you decide what you want to do with your life. You have option of spending your time with your child and give a good sanskar or ethical values in their lives, or go earn money, extra money, and do whatever you want with it, and you don't give time for your child. So these are the things. Please spend or give more time to your children. Half of the time I am in the clinic practicing my dentistry, another half of my time I'm with my baby, I'm with my son. Every time I go back from the clinic, the first thing, my son comes running to me and we hug each other tightly. There is so much love between us. We hug so tightly. He also hugs me tightly. I also hug him tightly. Then I kiss him. He'll kiss me back. Then I lift him. He'll be very comfortable in my arms. He feels so much love from his dad. He's very comfortable. He's very happy. And he can face anything in his life because his mom and dad are behind him. So your availability to your child is very important. And another thing is love. Love them. Shower lots of love, not conditioning love. Loving them when everything is fine and beating them when they are not eating food. Don't force the food onto them. They know how much they want to eat. You don't force them. When they are hungry, they'll come back. That is what I do with my son. We don't force food on him. Already we have developed the habit of overeating, and you want to instill the same thing to the baby, which is not there in him. Now what we do at home is, we'll feed him how much ever he wants to. Sometimes he'll eat enough food, sometimes he'll not eat. Then after 1 or 2 hours, he'll come back to his mom saying, Mom, I'm hungry, give me food. He'll give him. See, he's following his body, not his parents. And we should allow for him to follow his body, what body tells him to do. And another thing is touch. I spoke to you. So there is, I want to quote one research. There is a lady named Mary Carlson. She did a research in Romanian orphanage, where in the orphanage ample amount of shelter, food, and clothing was given to all the children. But the only thing they lack in the orphanage is love. So due to the lack of love, since they never experienced any love in their life, though they were provided with all the material needs, they ended up with the behavioral changes of violence. They became violent in actions. And another research I would like to quote: lack of touch leads to somatosensory affective disorder, that is, inability to physiologically suppress surging levels of stress hormones, leading to violent actions. What they are trying to tell is, suppose you are getting into fight or some issues in the road or in the outside or someone outside. So the person will not be able to control the anger. He will not be able to control the situation, turning himself to the violence. When a person has sufficient touch, sufficient amount of love in his life, he will be able to control things. Someone comes and touches you, hey man, chill man, cool down. Watch your emotions, watch your thoughts. It's okay, relax. We'll settle down the things with the words rather than action, and you will be able to listen to that person what they are trying to convey. So lack of love, lack of touch, lack of time to the children, all your expensive dolls, expensive toys, or expensive cars, or expensive bikes you present to your children doesn't make any difference until you give your time, love, and touch, my dear parents. So, telling this to all the would be parents,